Now that we know some of the evidence about the association between lights and sirens use and the increased risk of collision, let's go back to Dr. Kupas and find out how much time is actually saved using lights and sirens. We're going to talk to him about the white paper that he did for NHTSA, and this white paper is a wonderful summation of the literature to date on the subject when he wrote it. Dr. Kupas. Well, Dr. Kupas, welcome back. We mentioned that you have done a lot of work in this space. One of the things that you did that is incredibly helpful to anyone who wants to very rapidly get a great idea of the prior scientific work that has been done on this topic of light and siren use. You were the author on a white paper that was done for NHTSA. This was published in 2017. Amazing work, over 200 references, really does a great job of summarizing up the literature on this. Based on that work, I got a couple questions for you. You ready for this?
Yeah, fire away.
All right. We know that the only conceivable benefit of lights and siren use is that it saves time. How much time does it save?
As part of writing that 2017 monograph, I really searched the world's literature to find everything that I could that looked at how much time was saved. On the response time, we broke it into how much time is saved on response and how much time is saved on transport. And interestingly, these publications and research on this were all done slightly differently in a number of different systems, a number of different urban settings, traffic congestion, rural settings, suburban settings. Despite them all having slightly different ways of doing it, they all came to somewhat close findings. And on the response side, there were 7 articles, and the 7 articles showed average savings of anywhere from the article that showed the least amount of save time was 1.7 minutes, and the most amount of save time was 3.6 minutes. So out of 7 articles and different research methodologies, I think it's pretty safe to say that in most communities, you're going to save a few minutes with lights and siren response, but it could be as little as an average of 1.7 and as much as 3.6. And many of these actually found some of their responses were faster without the lights and siren, but these are numbers that are on average. When we look at the transport side, there were 8 articles that looked at the transport. And again, done in different ways of collecting their data, but they showed everything from Dr. Rick Hunt's work that showed a 42 seconds saved in transport with lights and siren in Greenville, North Carolina, moderate-sized city, to 3.8 minutes saved. So again, similar range of, both of them showing about a minute on the low end and about 3.5 to 4 minutes on the high end. It's probably safe to say that in most situations, you're going to save 2 or 3 minutes with lights and siren, whether it's with transport or with response.
So we're saving, just to round everything up, between 1 and 4 minutes. What is the harm of that? I mean, hey, that's great. We're saving this. Time is clearly life's saved, and we're hitting that in a different session here. What is the potential risk? What's the real harm in doing this?
Well, you're obviously setting me up with the time is life saved because, first of all, I want people to understand when you start talking about lights and siren, people sometimes get vitriol and the tweets that go out we are not suggesting that in EMS we should be going to all of our cardiac arrests, unresponsive people, potential cardiac arrests without lights and siren use. There are situations in medicine where that 2 minutes saved could make a significant change in outcome. But those are few and far between out of most of our responses. So aside from setting me up with that there, Dr. Jarvis, are there risks to using it? I mean, why don't we just say, well, what's the harm? We'll save a few minutes and let's just use it all the time. Well, there are very distinct risks. There are risks of crashes, and we know that there are thousands of EMS vehicle crashes every year. you can Google at almost any time and find fatal EMS crashes within the last week or so of any given time that you look for them. Many of those are related to lights and siren. Some are not related to lights and siren, but many are related. We know that if you're in an ambulance crash, that you have a higher rate of being injured than if you're in a crash with a similar sized vehicle. We know that most of the serious injuries occur in unrestrained people. And we have, that's where we have to do a lot of work in getting people in properly restrained in belts and forward facing seats in our vehicles, et cetera. But, I think if you think about the fact that every ambulance crash has many, many effects, one of which is it's devastating for the EMS agency. Just a simple ambulance crash immediately takes 3 ambulances into service. The one that crashed is taken out of service. You have to send a backup unit to the original call, or if you're transporting the patient, you have to send a backup unit to transport that. And then you have to send at least one, if not a few, and maybe some helicopters in some cases, to take care of all of the other severely injured EMS practitioners, members of the general public that were injured in the crash too. There are also what's called wake effect crashes that don't involve the ambulance, but we go through the intersection against the traffic light. Traffic that's paying attention stops for us, but they have a green light, and then behind them, they're rear-ended. And some have even estimated that could be 4 times as many crashes as the ones that actually involve the ambulance. But those often are less severe, but they cause some significant damage and things too. And then, the other 2 categories here are that there are effects on your patient. When we turn on a siren in the ambulance, the driver's heart rate and blood pressure goes up. The patient has effects. If you're having a heart attack, we used to give everybody having a heart attack beta blockers if the siren is going, and that's essentially like giving your patient adrenaline. The other thing is, it has been well established that EMS practitioners as well as firefighters in urban settings where they're exposed to lots of siren use have clear reduction in hearing acuity. And many of them have hearing loss that's earlier than it should be in life. Many of them have off-balance injuries or other injuries in the back of the vehicle as you're trying to do CPR while somebody's going, driving lights and siren, and you get an off-balance injury. So there are many, many risks. And, the risks sometimes are worth the benefits, but we really have to be very careful in choosing when is that risk worth the potential benefit to the patient.
Perfect. I think you have summed that up really well. And I want you to know that I was able to suppress my innate desire to ask you to repeat yourself because I can't hear very well from all the siren use. Great job there. I really do recommend everybody go take a look at this. There is a plethora of citations in there. Great summation. This really is a great place to start your safety journey on this. Dr. Kupas, thank you very much.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Jarvis.
You've been listening to the EMS Lighthouse Project podcast, a proud member of the FlightBridge Ed podcast family and a Fire Dog production. Visit flightbridgeed.com for more information.